everybody and welcome to Literature with Lydia, Liddy with Lid. And today on Literature with Lydia, what we're going to be talking about is a book that I read a long time ago, at this point like 2 months ago, called The Woman in Me. I took some notes while I was reading it, and today I will be basically reflecting on this book that I read, because that is what I do on Literature with Lydia. I have a playlist. I will be adding this to the playlist, and it is a public playlist, so you can go to my page, you can look at my playlists, and you can see all of the books that I have reviewed so far. Depending on what order I post these in, this could be the first, this could be the 5th, 6th, 7th. Who knows? So yes, The Woman in Me is a book by Brittany Spears, or supposedly by Brittany Spears. I actually do believe it. I do believe it, but I do believe it was probably heavily edited. But yeah, it just talks about her experience growing up, the lessons that she's learned in life, and it gives us some history and a look into the more grim aspects of her life. It's actually really sad. It's a pretty sad book, to be honest. It's more somber than you would expect for it to be for a pop star. You know what I'm saying? Like, I guess maybe pop stars actually do live kind of rough lives. But basically, this gave me like Jeanette McCurdy telling all vibes. Let me just get into my reflection. My first point is that being a beautiful woman in society comes with so much drama that other people are making about you. Like, it's an inherently valuable position, and therefore people obsess about you in a way that is unusual and pretty dangerous and overly sexual. And obsessive energy is dangerous and inherently creepy. And she reminded me of that. As I was reading this book, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I've been staying like out of the limelight. I've been staying out of a lot of friend groups because there's something about being a beautiful, young, successful woman that attracts attention, that is obsessive, and like, she's experienced it times 1,000 of what I've experienced, but I've experienced it pretty intimately too, like face to face with people who are obsessed and don't know what to do with that obsessive energy. And it's like jealousy and admiration mixed into one is a dangerous concoction. She reminded me of that. She talks about like going out in the gay community and how she finds like a type of love in the gay community and a type of acceptance in the gay community that is purer than other places. And I totally agree. And in that way, I do think sometimes people who aren't queer are still queer. Like, even if you don't like whatever gender, there's still like, you can be queer in nature by just being an accepting and loving person. So a lot of her struggle was about coming of age at a time when like media is becoming what it is. It's like the old pop star is dying out and the new one is coming in, and she hit it at a really weird time where like the ways to cope with the level of fame that our new systems of media have created were not yet created, but the new media was created. So like, she didn't have the publicist who was well versed in like how to manage a public persona on this new media, because you couldn't be well versed in that yet because it hadn't been around long enough. I think that that's really interesting. Like, she just hit it at a really weird point where like there was like a mix between old world and new world media and old world and new world fame. Like, she had the level of stardom without the level of protection that people have today. She was exposed to the dangers of modern media without the protections that stars have developed today to deal with modern media. Something that she says, and this is kind of towards the end of the book, but this is in no particular order that I'm making these reflections, is that while she forgives her family for what they did, she doesn't ever want to talk to them again still. And I can relate to that. Like, being able to forgive has nothing to do with if you want to talk to someone or not. Your desire to want to talk to someone is completely separate from if you forgive them for what they've done or not. That's just the truth. And sometimes once you forgive someone, you actually don't want to talk to them more than you did before because you have less invested in their relationship. People are always like, oh yeah, look at Brittany now, she's so weird, she's so crazy. Especially like older men will be like, oh yeah, she's going off the wall, look at her on social media doing her thing. And then like younger people, I've noticed, tend to be more accepting and less judgmental. They're like, oh yeah, people dance on the internet, that's a thing that they do. People try on clothes on the internet, that's a thing that they do. And if it looks like she's disheveled, that's because she's been overworked her whole life. That's what that does to you. But I was talking to an older man recently, and he was like, oh yeah, Brittany, like, she actually deserved her conservatorship and just all this ignorant bullshit. This was before I read the book. And I remember just like kind of being quiet because I didn't really know what to say. And he was like, look at what she's posting. Like, it's all like, she's definitely crazy. She needs to be like in a psych ward and all this type of stuff. That type of rhetoric is so dangerous, especially after having read this, hearing what the conservatorship was actually like, which was like slavery with no reward. She was an indentured servant, basically. It's just like crazy that people walk around talking about stuff that they know nothing about. This is not just with Brittany Spears. People do this to everybody. There are such entitled people in the world who just walk around talking about stuff like they know something about it, and they don't. They'll pretend. You can't believe everything you hear. That's why I kind of stayed quiet. I was like, what's going on? And there's also like a difference between needing to be in a conservatorship and needing to get like mental health help. They're different things. The conservatorship did not help her mental health. She was basically a slave, which is really sad. When they say, oh, the conservatorship was for her mental health, it's like, no, it was for her abusive father to make money off of her. When you start making money in the entertainment industry, people start to see you as like public property because they see you as like a cash cow. They see you as someone who is capable of getting things for them. And that is something that scares me about, like, if I'm ever successful. Oh, I mean, like, I'm successful in my own way now, but like if I ever do become more successful, I am afraid of my capacity to protect myself from people who would want a piece of that success. I'm afraid for that, and I pray I'll know how to handle it if it ever happens. I have written down institutionalization is prison. I think this about school pretty frequently, and I also think this about people in mental institutions who get like checked in against their will, and sometimes people will check them in. Parents will check their kids in just so that they can like punish their kids. I think it's weird that like you can't take someone to prison and just check them in, but you can take someone to one of these places and they're not allowed to leave, and that's practically prison. I think there should be more protections for people before they get put into these places. Because yeah, she was trapped in a mental institution. She was locked away and not allowed to leave. It's just really sad. And that's like when the Free Brittany movement started happening, and she thinks it's because she has a spiritual connection with her fans and they could sense how in distress she was. And I believe that. She says you can't fuck with a person who can pray, and then she says, if I can manifest anything, let it be this. When she was in the mental institution, she was like, if I can manifest anything, let it be that I will be free soon. And that's when the Free Brittany movement started. She's like, basically, you can't fuck with a person who can pray. I thought that was so powerful. I was like, you're right, there's something going on there. My final reflection about this book is that controlling people will have no problem making their opinion of your life your law, which I find terrifying. That is my main takeaway from this book, is that you give power over your life to the wrong people, or if you have something that looks good in someone else's opinion that they want from you, if they're a controlling and unempathetic person, they will have no problem taking that from you. And that's what happened in her conservatorship with her father. He saw the chance to profit off of throwing his daughter under the bus, and he did it. I find that terrifying, and I think it's like a really important reality check to remember is that you can't be off guard with these people because they're not good people. There are evil people in the world who will take advantage of you, and who will take advantage of you regardless of if they're your parent or not, regardless of anything, regardless of if you worked for what you have or not, they'll take it from you. Like it says, controlling people have no problem making their opinion your law. They will have no problem enforcing their opinions based on nothing but their feelings upon you. And that's why I'm grateful that there are some protections against coercive control and abuse, but also is why you kind of need to be vigilant and take steps that are not even in the law, written in the law, to protect yourself from these people. And it's really hard when one of them is your parent, but I guess that's what no contact's for, and that's what she's doing now. That's what I'm doing now as well. Okay, and that is everything that I have to reflect about this book. And actually, I will say one more thing. She talks about how she was in the desert and she just felt this like little spidey sense, like she was being like watched or blessed or something. A moment of feeling like there was a presence there. There was something with her and her friend in the desert, and they were driving in their convertible across the desert. And I've had this feeling before, just like knowing that you're safe and knowing that something's with you. And that was beautiful that she put that in there because she's lived such a chaotic and crazy life. It's so different than anything I've experienced, and it's so different than any of us will ever experience. Most of us will not experience a life like hers, but will experience aspects of our own lives that are like hers. That is one of them. Feeling protected, feeling like there is something with you. There is like a higher power, and I don't really know if it's God, but I know it's there, and that's what matters. Okay, well, that's actually everything, and I hope you have a fantastic day, and watch my other videos in this playlist if you haven't, and if you have, thank you for that, and subscribe, leave a thumbs up, give me a pat on the back. Thank you, and